When you buy a therapy panel for elderly people who may have problems with hands, like problems with hand dexterity, then you need to consider what type of switches and controls they are going to use, because some therapy lights are easier to operate than others. So let me discuss this in this video. If you are planning to buy a therapy light panel for elderly people who may have problems with hand dexterity and some kind of pains in their hands, or their hands are not operating like they used to, then you need to consider what kind of controls your light therapy will have, and is it going to be easy for them to use or the opposite. If something is difficult to operate and too fiddly, they will be not happy with using them, and of course they won't have the most benefits out of it. I've been working in therapies for like more than 9 years, including physiotherapy and occupational therapy, and many times I had patients who had problems with hand dexterity and other problems with using the equipment which most people find easy, but for them it was not so easy. Let's think about the problems people with problems with hand dexterity may have operating the lights like this. This is an example of very easy light to operate here, because it's got two switches, very large, and they are positioned on the side of the panel, so it's for everyone, even with who has problems with eyesight and who's got shaky hands. It's easy to operate, because if you want to have a session, you just basically stand in front of it, turn the switch, and you can start the session. And then when you want to finish, simply switch it off. Of course, the disadvantage of this option is that it doesn't have digital timer, but you can use an egg timer, you can use a mobile phone, you can use stopwatch, or you can even look on the clock which is next to you and then measure precisely the amount of time for your session. And of course, it's not like you need to be very precise. If you do it 6 minutes instead of 5, nothing is major going to happen. So you don't need to be very strict and very precise with measuring the time. So this option is basically very easy for people who may have problems with eyesight or with hand coordination and using the fingers to tap in small buttons. On the other hand, we've got this modern panel which has got digital controls here. So let's discuss what kind of problems people may have with this light. Although it's more advanced, it's got more features, it theoretically should be more convenient. But this is not exactly the case, because to operate this more advanced light panel with all sorts of new features, first you need to turn it at the back here using that big switch, which is exactly the same like the other. But now the person who wants to use it, they need to operate the control panel, and that may be less easy for people who have problems with eyesight, because for instance that digital, it's not too large for somebody with eyesight problem, and of course they need to use their fingers to control. So for instance, to press twice the top button to adjust for red and near infrared, then they need to tap to change the time, and then again they need to press for doing the start doing light therapy. So it's a lot of fiddling with these digital controls, and if they have problems with hand dexterity, these buttons are very close to each other. So for somebody with bigger fingers or with a little bit shaky hands, and it may be a problem. So I want to show you this information because it may be important for the person who is going to use this light. Of course, because this panel is more advanced, that has got more wavelengths and it's got digital timer, so it's theoretically more convenient, but because controls may be not as easy to use for somebody who's got some health problems, some health difficulties, either with eyesight or maybe with hand coordination, then sometimes something simpler like that panels here, it's easier for them to use. So I want you to consider this when you purchase light, especially for elderly person who has got some health problems, that they may benefit more from simpler panel with less digital controls than from the more advanced panel with more fiddly controls. So for instance, PlatinumLED recently introduced their new therapy lights, BIOMAXes, with like a very sophisticated and very advanced control panel when you can use your finger to dim it up or down. The question is, for person who's got problems with eyesight, or maybe they have very shaky hands or big fingers, how is it easy to actually use this panel? Because they may struggle when they tap. It will be that totally different button. They will tap different button, they will get frustrated, and they may not want to use it as often as they could, because it's not going to work for them as perfectly as they expect, because of the problems with using their finger to control it. Of course, that may be totally not an issue for you, but it's worth considering that some people who has some problems with health, with hand coordination, or perhaps even with eyesight, they would benefit from something simple, and for them, simple light panels will be better than more advanced panels, because they can easier use it. And of course, take into consideration that some people, like for instance with dementia, they might not remember easily how to operate the sophisticated control panel, but they will easily grasp the idea of turning on and on the switch, because we all know that to turn the equipment on, you just need to press one button and start the session. And it's not going to be easy to teach them and to make them remember how to use more sophisticated, more advanced therapy light panel. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumb up, I really appreciate it. Share with your friends who would also benefit from this information. Check out my website for more information about red light therapy, discount codes and other interesting stuff. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.